So now if we go ahead and put that in there, oh my gosh, there we go. That's good. And I'm getting so many achievements right now. Hello everybody and welcome back to our Skyblock series with a bunch of creates and mechanism. I really don't know if I want to call this create to mechanism, but that's what it's called. I've been a little bit busy in between episodes. I set up something very small here. So I moved my water wheel back and I added a few more, and then I did this little thing right here with a bunch of cog wheels to kind of help speed it up, because apparently that's something you can do, is you can like put a large cog wheel here and then another one up there, and then it just, you keep stacking it up and it speeds up, and then put some andesite casings on these guys so that way it doesn't mess things up, because it will do that. It's a lot of very techno savvy stuff, and it makes me super duper smart, and I totally did not just copy it from some random YouTube video. But yeah, I did that, and I also added a mixer over here. Now, the reason why I didn't make the mixer or anything like that on screen is because the recipe is exactly the same as everything else I've already done. Like, if I go and find the press, if you look, the recipe for these two, it's almost exactly the same. The only difference was this whisk, which just took 2 of the andesite alloy and then some iron sheets, which I got from my press that I'd already made. That's gonna be a reoccurring thing. So what I'm gonna do, I am going to try to automate the base component in a lot of these. That way I can get a lot more of the machines done today. And that thing that we need to automate is this kinetic mechanism. Now, we already have the basic crafting recipe here, but there's also a recipe sequence for it, which conveniently takes the andesite alloy in it, as well as a saw. But I'm also gonna need 3 of these deployers. I've already created one, and just in case any of you are upset, I decided to wait until I got the rest of this. So, there we go. Now we got ourselves our deployers. What we can now go ahead and do is we can just go ahead and put these shafts right up here. Oh, interesting. One of those is actually already getting touched. Okay, I managed to figure out how to get it to work. I actually did something very sneaky. So I decided to just hook this up back here to the main chain drives, but you'll notice that means that these can no longer be connected. But that didn't matter since we had these both connected thanks to the belt. So I was able to kind of save up on chain drives. I was very smart on this one. Also though, I had to make some goggles because these guys, very simple recipe, what they'll allow us to do is we can actually see how much of a stress capacity these things are in. And I needed to do that because we overstressed. And for those of you who don't know what that means, it stops everything from working. So I had to add a few more water wheels just so we can get that up, because each one of these big ones makes 512 stress units. So combine all these together, we've got a lot. So here we go. Now we've got these guys all ready and raring to go. And since this one doesn't need to be looped, I don't need to try and figure out any sort of setup with that. We can just go ahead, plop the diamond one into there, and then plop our andesite ones into here. This is just for testing purposes. I'm not actually properly getting the full automation right for this one just yet. Actually, I probably need to move it a bit over if I want to do that. I can sort that out later. Right now, I'm just getting the basic idea for this. Now, what we need to do is we just need to go ahead and grab ourselves some oak slabs. And if I go ahead and throw an oak slab right there, yes. And there we go. We got our kinetic mechanism. So now what I need to do, I would need to get a large amount of those andesite alloys up in each of those, which I don't have a full automation for andesite alloy just yet. I would also need to automate zinc and algae, which I can automate zinc easily, but algae, yeah, we won't be able to fully automate the andesite alloy. Zinc, I will be automating later today as well, but for the mean moment, this is gonna be what we're gonna have to work with. Also, I kind of realized I never actually showed you guys how the mixer works. And I apologize for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make the andesite alloy on screen. Now, this only uses one of each of these for the recipe. So I'm going to end up with 63 of these andesite alloys. But as you can see, it will now go down and start to mix all of this. And you can see in there, right in one of the EI mods, I don't know if this is JEI or REI, but we are now getting ourselves our andesite alloy. And remember, for each one of these recipes, I get 2. I thought I only got 1, but then I remembered, no, I get 2 for each of these. That's actually going to be really convenient, because that means that I'll have each of these guys full of 1. That's pretty cool. Okay, so while that's going, we're also going to want to go ahead and get something so that way we can kind of finish up the kinetic mechanism pseudo automation. And that's going to be a stone cutter, first and foremost. And it's actually not difficult to get. We just need to go ahead and make an iron gear. I've already got the compressed iron plates. And then we make a saw blade. And then we get ourselves a stone cutter. So we can go ahead and just plop that there for right now. We do have all of our andesite alloy. I've got enough to be able to make the thing I need now. But I kind of can't leave just yet, because otherwise it's all going to go out. And that's not going to be good for anybody. But it seems pretty consistent in where it lands, so that's good. If it just went flying all over the place, then we might have a small problem. So now that we have this baby, we can go ahead and make ourselves our good old andesite machine. You know, we made this in the last video. What we now need to use this for is we can grind this up into a multitude of things. We can actually get a summoning altar for some reason. But what we really want is the andesite funnel. And this will give us 4 of these. So that's actually really good. And after that, all we do is just slap this baby right here, put our funnel there, and we should be good. So now, if I were to go ahead and then grab my planks one more time, I do this to make sure that this is going to work, because the funnel is right there. So it may not necessarily actually give me what I need. So if I go ahead and throw one right there, it presses, it presses, it presses. Okay, so it's all good. And there we go. Now we're getting our kinetic mechanisms automated. That's so sick. Okay, so now what I could do is I could add another, like, maybe a chest over here, and then I could fill that up with planks, and then I can have those just constantly going out if I so chose to. Seeing as how that's probably not entirely necessary, of course, it would give me more symmetry. I chose for symmetry. So now if we go ahead and put that in there, oh my gosh, there we go. That is pretty sick, dude. What usually was taking me like 15 minutes or something to be able to get mass amounts of them, I can now do in like the span of still minutes, because I'd still need to get the andesite alloy. But once I got that, it's seconds. Eventually, I do want to find a way to fully automate the andesite alloy to kind of go into there, so that way this thing will be constant. At the current moment, I'm not entirely sure how I would do that, nor am I fully understanding as to how all this could work. So it's going to take a little bit of finicking and a little bit of research into Create before I can go down that road. However, when it comes to the zinc, I do know how I can get that consistently. And it's a good thing that we just got a mass amount of these guys, because we're gonna need it. Now, the more that I look into what's gonna be necessary for this, the more I realize I'm gonna hate setting this up. So what we're gonna need, so that way we can get ourselves some diorite before we can turn into zinc, we're gonna need this thing called a mechanical extruder. Now, the first initial 2 parts of the recipe, same as everything else. We don't need to concern ourselves with that. But we also need to use a cobblestone generator. The first thing we're going to need, though, is we're going to need some glass, a bucket of water and lava, you know, that's the normal, logs, but also compressed cobblestone. Because for some reason, normal cobblestone, it ain't enough. Oh, no. We need to compress it down. And I still have 1 bucket of lava left over from before. Alrighty, and then my infinite water source, which I set up in between episodes, made a little jacuzzi. It's nice. So now, after that, we should have everything we need. Okay, I guess I only grabbed 2 logs, but now we have everything we need to get ourselves a cobble generator. Okay, so now what we need to do is we just need to go ahead and throw these 2 together, and then we get ourselves a mechanical extruder. And while we're here, we can also go ahead and throw in a wooden hopper, which is just a hopper, but with wood instead of iron. And then we get ourselves a millstone. But now that I have both of these, I can actually go ahead and start this getting a setup ready, because with the extruder, I can put lava and water next to each other like in a cobble gen. But I can put my stone of choice, in this specific case, compressed stone, and then I'll start getting the diorite, which I then need to have going outwards, so that way it'll then go into the millstone, which I will then need to drop right here on this fan, which should then start getting me some zinc nuggets. So after that, it's really just gonna come down to me figuring out how to set this thing up. And since it's create, we really don't want to see these things built. We just sort of want to see how they're done. Unless it's a guide, which this is very much not. I would not listen to me on create at all.
20 minutes later.
Okay, I have everything set up. I should just need to go ahead and put one thing left into place. So, to guide you all through what I've done, I have my mechanical extruder up here with the lava and the water next to it, and I have my compressed diorite underneath it. This is then going onto a belt, which will go over to our millstone, which we do have being turned thanks to our mechanical mixer right here, which is good. Then we have that connected to a chute. Now, chutes have their original recipe, mostly. I don't know if zinc sheets were a part of it, but that's fine. So those are very cheap for me to be able to get. And then that should drop down in front of our fan, get blown over here onto our drawer, which is locked. I made a configuration tool. It wasn't too hard to get, but it used up almost all my EMC. So now it should only allow those things in there in the event that this is actually the right items. Now all that remains is for me to apply a cog right here on my encased chain cog wheel, because those can actually mix with chain drives and also cogs. Oh, here we go. Hopefully the position of it doesn't mess with everything. Okay. It's working. Okay, I was actually kind of worried it would get overstressed too. So after 5 bonks, this should release an item. So, okay, yeah, we do got diorite in there. Okay, so I believe all I need to now do is place down my final funnel. And there it goes. It's now all going into there and getting crushed. Okay, wait, I need to hold my crushed diorite. That way I can then have that part of it. There we go. And it's not going in, but it will go in once the things are all fully blown. Oh, there we go. We got another quartz. That's good. I'm getting so many achievements right now. Okay. But there we go. Now we got the achievements for these guys to be automated. And there we go. Alrighty, so now final step for that. We go ahead and get our machine. And then that is this quest done. Which now opens up the next level of quests. Now, the reason why it keeps giving me all these simple ones is this mod pack really wants me to automate things. Cobblestone, that's going to be easy. I could just set up a cobblestone generator. In fact, what I kind of want to do when it comes to that cobblestone is I want to have 3 separate cobble generators. One that's going to generate cobble, one that's going to get gravel, and then one that's going to get sand. And those guys are actually also going to need millstones. So I'm going to need to figure out A, a placement for that, and then B, just a lot of spacing stuff for that. So that's going to be something else that I'm going to want to do later on my own time. And plus, with the crushed granite, once we actually get that thing a part of the setup too, we'll actually start getting copper, which is actually going to be very important for me going forward very soon, as next episode is episode 3. And in chapter 3, which I haven't gotten to yet, this is where we find the Nether. Which, for those of you who don't know, going to the Nether on the 3rd episode, if possible, is like a massive tradition for me on the channel. I have looked a little bit more into this though. It looks like if I want to be able to get to the Nether, I am going to need to go ahead and do all of this quest line. Oh gosh, is there a lot in this? Oh, and then that's gonna require mixing with water. There's some great things I'm gonna need to do. I'm gonna need a bigger area. So did you like this video? Good. Then be sure to check out our last video where we started Create to Mechanism. Bye-bye!